Welcome back. And in this segment, I welcome Rachel Kenny, who is our director of our hospice activity here at Green Spring. And Rachel brought a guest with her. Barbara Hawkins has joined us. Welcome, Barbara.
Thank you.
We're so glad that you're both here.
Thank you.
Rachel is here this morning and has brought Barbara with her. And I'll let Rachel introduce our topic and how we're going to talk about hospice today.
Well, so Barbara had, her husband was served by Green Springs Hospice.
That's right.
And I thought that she could come and share her experience with everyone and let them know that we're not as scary as we may seem.
Oh, I'm sure you're not scary. Thank you for joining us to talk about this very sensitive topic, but it's a wonderful one to be shared because it's something that potentially all of us face.
Well, that's for certain. Well, my husband and I, many years ago, not many years ago, I guess 3.5 or so years ago, were living in an active adult community and having a wonderful retirement life, and he developed some chronic illnesses. And it became a little bit too much for me to handle 2 houses. And we thought, after I'd been to Green Spring a number of times, this is where I want to live. So we made that huge decision. But we had all along done some end-of-life planning and knew that Green Spring offered a multitude of services. We'd checked them all out, and it was important to us that Green Spring was a continuing care place. But it was very impressive for me. I am a nurse. I don't usually tell people that. But that you offered home health, and we offer hospice services here and home support, that type of thing. So to me, there was no question, this is where we're going to go. Our children were absolutely delighted. But we have done in-depth end-of-life planning, and I had never had any true experience with hospice short of referring other people.
Kind of knew that it was a program that existed.
That's right, but don't involve me.
Yes.
So when you're a nurse and your husband's ill, it's a whole different ball of wax. You are no longer a nurse, you're just a relative.
Right.
And it's a real tough road to hoe. And one day, all of a sudden, he had a symptom that was dramatic that caused us to take an ambulance ride and discovered that he was, in fact, at this point in time, terminal. Had a
Very
terminal
suddenly.
Very suddenly. Even though he had chronic illnesses, he was suddenly terminal. And he was spent 8 days in the hospital, and the hospital palliative care team came and counseled with us.
And palliative care is?
Palliative care is defined
as? We don't know
as
that term.
So palliative care is like the step before hospice.
Okay.
So they do symptom management. How can they make you comfortable, but maybe you're not terminal?
Okay.
So it's kind of the step before.
Okay. So here you are in the hospital.
And we're talking about what happens next, because, you know, they don't keep you forever.
Sure.
And so with a lot of discussion with them leading it, which was very helpful, they introduced us to hospice. And I said, well, Green Spring has a hospice program. Well, if you like, we will contact them and get the ball rolling.
So this was the hospital working with Green Spring
Right,
at that point.
Exactly, which was very helpful. Make a long story short, he was discharged home, and at that time, when we got there, my son had moved the furniture out of the dining room. Hospice had moved a hospital bed and all kinds of other equipment I never dreamt we would need, and we used all of it.
So this is our hospice team at Green Spring.
Our hospice team
had
at
jumped
Green.
in and prepared your apartment for the arrival of your husband.
They did. By the way, there's one thing they didn't do.
What?
I forgot to tell you this.
What's that?
Too. The bed is a hospital bed, and I didn't have any twin bed sheets. I only had king size sheets.
Oh, yes.
So a relative ran to Walmart and got some, and so we were fine.
Yes.
But
We don't provide the
You
linens.
do not provide linens.
Right.
And that's a good thing to know.
But they did provide absolutely everything else. Everything, including supplies, medication, but most importantly, they supplied staff support. The nurse that did, I guess you call it intake, their first interview with me and my son, without my husband, he was in another, they were settling him, was very educational. Now, I supposedly know all this, I don't. But I learned
Because
it
someone
from
would
her.
think, well, you're a nurse.
Yeah, don't
therefore
assume
you know
anything,
everything.
please.
Yes.
And no matter what you think you know, when it's your own relative, it's a whole
All
different
that is
ball
turned
of
off.
wax. It really is. And can I name names?
I think so.
We had
Sure.
Ann Walker was our nurse, and I'll never forget Ann Walker and how she explained the hospice program and what would happen and how we would get there and how they are not there to predict when you're going to die. They're there to help you through some troubled times.
Right.
And she was just wonderful. My family decided I needed some assistance around the clock. He was a big man, and that happened too. We took care of all those kinds of things. My biggest concern today, living here in Green Spring and talking with so many folks, and you know the dinner table is where we do it.
That's right.
There are so many people who have not planned for their end of life. Now, end of life planning doesn't mean hospice. End of life planning means all the financial things. What do the children know? Where will they find the stuff? What do they have to get rid of? Do they need to come to the seminars here about moving out or transitioning? Now I sound like a sales rep for Green Spring.
No, you don't sound like a sales rep. You sound like someone who has been through this and is advising people based on what you've learned.
Please, that's exactly what I've tried to do.
And we have just, in the segment before you was Ron Taylor from Finance, and he and his team have been giving educational
Oh, I'm very
seminars
familiar with them.
based on that. And you know, a lot of people just don't want to. Well, I'll let my children take that. I'll let my children take care of that.
I've heard that.
And the
I've
children
heard that.
don't know this. A lot of people are like you and your husband were, although you have done planning, but a lot of people moved to Green Spring when they were feeling good and they were healthy, and their children know nothing about any of the entry fees and all of the things that need to happen. So when something happens to the parents, they don't have a clue. And then the parents have done no planning.
As chairman of the Garden Ridge Committee, one of the things we do is try to promote interest in Garden Ridge. Please find out about Garden Ridge before you go there.
Yes.
And people are afraid to go.
And
Please
yes,
find out about
it's
hospice.
that place over there.
It's that place. It's a wonderful place.
Sure it is.
I mean, I'm ready when the time comes.
Right.
So the other experience I've had, and I want to throw a few questions here at my friend, my mother was with hospice way too late. My neighbor across the hall here in Green Spring was with hospice. She introduced herself to me when I moved in. She said, I have brain cancer. And I said, are you with hospice? Oh my God, no.
Because she didn't want to face.
So when the time came, it was really tough for her. It was a little too late. And her family. It's just that way. And now I know
because
other
people don't want
that
to
way
face
too.
the fact that they are going to die.
That's right.
And-
So when do we call hospice?
So you
That's
could
an excellent question and phrased very well. When do we call hospice?
You can call us anytime you want, and we will, everybody is an individual, and that's how we approach them. If you have a life-limiting illness or some chronic illnesses that are life-limiting, we will be happy to evaluate you. We will be happy to answer your questions. But it's really dependent on a case-by-case basis. I think that if modern medicine cannot help you anymore, that would be a good time to start the conversations with hospice. If you want to be admitted and we can admit you, we will be happy to do that. The example I like to give is, because I think people think, oh, I feel pretty good, so I'm not eligible for hospice. So let's take somebody that has had cancer, and they went through chemo, and it made them feel awful. And now they're not going to do chemo anymore, and they're feeling better because that medicine is not going in them. They still have cancer. They're still going to die from the cancer. And even though they're feeling better and going to dinner and going to events, they would be eligible for hospice. I feel like the earlier you start the conversations with the hospice team, the better it is, because we have so many services that we provide. Sometimes it comes very suddenly and you're only on hospice for a few days.
Which was the case with my mother, 2 days.
Right. And Barbara's husband was 8 days.
Right.
And that was appropriate for her and for you. But other people, the sooner we can start building those relationships, the more support we can be to you and your family.
And if it's not appropriate for the person to be accepted in hospice at that point, I'm sure you will tell them so.
We absolutely will. We have Medicare guidelines that we follow. I want everybody to have hospice, not today, but at the end of their lives. It is such an important benefit that I want everybody to take advantage of it.
So do I.
Yes, absolutely.
So do I.
And so the earlier the better, so that we can provide you with all the services that we have to offer.
I want to tell you about one service they offered that I
Okay.
didn't mention.
Okay.
Chaplain Annie. You could not ask for a better support person than Chaplain Annie.
Chaplain Annie works out of Garden Ridge usually, correct?
Yes, but she's their hospice chaplain
Okay.
too. And to this day, Chaplain Annie is there for me.
That's great.
I mean, she is fantastic. The nurses were just fantastic. I didn't have any of the aides, so I can't attest to them, but I know the program is great.
But you said that one of the most helpful things with you was help in physically moving your husband.
Oh yes, I had to have that kind of help, and they could have provided some of that too. So
I think the most valuable part when you look at hospice here and versus, say, hospice in your own home, wherever, is that the services are here. You're not having to go out and find them. The services are vetted. We know who these people are. They're Green Spring employees. The services are here. All of the other services around us are here, that you don't have to worry about it, that there are people here to help us. You can get what you need.
you're absolutely correct.
Yeah.
That's why I moved to Green Spring.
Well, and that's why we did too, because we don't have children, and we need to be someplace where whatever happens to us, the support of whatever we need all the way down the line is here.
Yes, absolutely.
That we're not having to go out and beat the bushes and find it and not know where to look and what to do. What was the most valuable asset for you with hospice?
Not having to make the moment-to-moment decisions about which medications to give him, what's going to happen next.
Mm-hmm.
They just were there. And the day my husband passed away, I think there were the highest number of patients in-house the hospice had ever had. And the nurse, and of course it had to be a weekend,
Of course.
and the nurse on call was just running from spot to spot.
Ah.
And I said, I'm here, I'm okay. She said, yeah, I know you are. She takes care of somebody else and she's right back.
Wow.
And she leaves me and she's somewhere else taking care of somebody else.
Wow.
And she did bring in extra help.
Yeah.
So,
Really special people.
and I know that I wasn't any more special than any of her other patients either. So,
I think it takes special people to work in this program.
oh, I guarantee you it takes special people to work.
Yeah.
And you're one of them.
Oh,
Well, you're both very special people for coming here and joining us today.
thank you.
Thank you for educating us a little more about hospice. And Rachel, we'll look forward to seeing you here again.
Absolutely.
Barbara, thank you so much for coming and sharing your experience with hospice.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Yes, right, good. And we'll look forward to seeing you again, Rachel.
All right, thank
And we
you.
have a couple of announcements here to end our program today.